County Public Safety Committee. And we'll begin. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight, and I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes, but I'd like to make a motion that we approve those minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Mr. Nunley with EMS. We'll go over your report first.
We made 2,990 calls during the month of October. Average response time was 8.0 minutes. We had 38 DOAs for the month, and the number of autopsies were 9. We billed a total of $1,549,655. Collected $634,872. It gives us a projected yearly collections of $7,784,556. We had $565,279 of insurance write-offs and $154,123 of collection agency write-offs. There's not anything unusual at the bottom of the page. We drove a total of 52,063 miles. The cost per mile is 46 cents per mile. And we had a total of out-of-zone calls of 1,082, which is just a little bit over 30%, but that's been about what it's been for the past few months. The second page is various in-services and training and the activities for our various teams. As usual, the REACT team has been very active during the month, and that's kind of a continual thing. The SORT team had several different trainings, but they also made 187 calls during the month. The next page is the number of calls broken down by the stations. As to response time, time on the scene, and transport time. Even though the Burton Street zone is the most busy zone, it covers the smallest area in square mileage, but its response time reflects that as well. Following page is the number of calls broken down by district calls, also the number of national calls, and then the transport team calls for the month. Transport team made a total of 186 calls. The next page is the same material, except that it's for year to date. The following page is the matrix of who's making what calls in which zone, and as you can see, oftentimes the ambulances are making quite a few calls out of their zone and into other zones, which is essentially, as I said earlier, is about a third of our calls are made out of zone, and that adds to the response time each time that happens. We have a couple of thank you letters. One of those is from a county employee, and the other is from the family of Ted Farley. That's the report.
Questions for Mr. Nunley?
Mine's not a question, but an observation. So we're looking at, compared to last year, number of calls of over 400 difference than just last year.
A month.
So we're gaining this much.
That's 2 ambulances.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, 2 ambulances right there.
Have we ever hit 3,000 in a month?
I think we were 3,001 a month or two ago. It's been right at
Yeah,
3,000.
they're getting, every month it's getting. And also explain on it, the Manchester had more calls than MTSU's zone. Is that because MTSU then was in somebody else's, Burton's or somebody else's zone around there
Yeah,
instead of?
We've got the big three, which is MTSU, Burton Street, and Salem Road, all backing each other up, and all it takes is to get 2 calls in any one of those 3 zones, and it just all kind of falls apart at that point. And what we do is we pull Manchester in at that time, and that's why they make so much.
And that's as soon as you get a couple of calls in those heavy zones, then you bring it into where, somewhere,
To Publix.
public zone. Okay.
You know, I know that Commissioner Gurley has instructed me to present a plan for teething ambulances next year, but I almost think that we might have to think about buying that car wash over on the corner.
Any further questions on the report? Now we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report is presented.
Second. And a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We have a budget amendment?
We do have a budget amendment asking to transfer money from paraprofessionals payroll to overtime pay in the amount of $200,000. We're essentially out of money, even though it's only been 4 months into this year in our overtime budget. And we need to have some more in there.
You've heard the request.
Motion to approve the request.
Second.
Motion and second. Any questions? Is that, I see the FMLA that you have down there, but are we also on turnover? Is that causing part of it?
The FMLA is a big part of it, because we have 3 or 4 out right now in FMLA, but that's something that we deal with all the time. But the main culprit is we have a tremendous turnover right now. We've got a lot of vacant positions, and the only way that we can staff the ambulances is through overtime. And that's just killing us right now. We have a bunch of initiatives that we're working on, and you'll get those next month, to try to improve our ability to recruit and our see if we can't get that correct. In fact, I brought some of these for you if you'd like to take a look at it. That's something that we developed, and actually we have a team that are going to Chattanooga tomorrow to the EMT and paramedic school in Chattanooga we're recruiting heavily in all of the paramedic and EMT schools. And there's several short-range things that we can do, and long-range things as well, such as the schools and getting EMT training in the schools and those kind of things.
I stopped down at the station by Roy Waldron School. It was Veterans Day. Went down there and we were in, chatted with them for a bit, and they say that the surrounding counties, it's not just money. You can go and get paid in the little counties, but you don't have near the work to do.
Exactly right.
And you see that in our call volume going up.
No, I hate to say it, but when you're trying to recruit people that are getting out of school, they have a lot of opportunities in front of them. But when they tell you that a question such as, why would I want to come to work for you when you don't pay anything and you're working your people to death, and we've got that more than once.
How many positions are open?
A total of 45. Now that's not full-time. That is a big number of that is our PRN staff. But the PRN staff is necessary to allow people to take vacations and things like that. So that decreased PRN staff is causing us to have to deny vacation times and those kind of things. But the total is 45. I can't give you the answer exactly today because it changes from day to day. It seems like sometimes we'll have 7 and then we'll hire 2 people and 3 more leave. So it just bounces back and forth. But I'm going to just take a guess and say that we probably have about somewhere between 7 and 10 full-time positions open right now.
But in other counties, though, they're also having some of this request too.
Other counties are having difficulties as well. But when the other counties have responded by increasing their pay and so forth, it just makes it doubly difficult for us.
But you can only go so far increasing pay. You've got to have other ways to make this.
I think that the true answer is in terms of the long-term initiatives that we have, such as the schools and our scholarships and those kind of things. And plus, to be honest with you, when we're at full staff, Rutherford County is a good place to work. And Sonia has developed a handout similar to this for us to carry with us too, which extols the good things about living and working in Rutherford County, as well as the reaching out to the industries, that provide jobs for spouses and those kind of things. We've gotten 3 calls from the military since we've reached out to them, or Sonia has reached out to them and encouraging them to come to Rutherford County. So,
I know the CTE training that's going to go into some of the schools once we get that started. That'll make a difference.
yeah, it sure will. And I met again with Don Odom last week, and that's still on go. I asked him about the possibility of putting an ambulance station, if it was too late to put an ambulance station on that site. And he said he didn't think so, that he was going to check with the engineers and get back to me. Because it would be good to have an ambulance station there where they could rotate in and out.
Actually training there.
So,
Is it all money or financial, or is it the equipment? Do you ever have someone leave because equipment?
I really don't think we have equipment issues. We're slowly gaining. The biggest equipment issue that we've had has been the stretchers.
Right.
And I think we have 13 now, which is, if we had one more, we'll be able to at least have one on all of our online ambulances. And I think we can probably do that this year. So I don't think it's equipment.
Okay.
Other than that, our equipment is top notch.
Good.
No further questions?
I've got one. On this, on the increased amount, how did you come up on 200,000? Why not more, why not less?
I was looking for a figure that would get us past this critical time that we're in. Hopefully, this will get us to the point to where we can staff our positions so that we have no empty positions. And if we get to that point, then we won't need any more than this. And plus, I wanted to leave a little bit of balance in that paraprofessional account. The reason we have such a big overage in that account is because we've got the open position. But I did want to leave some in there in order to help us along the way if we could.
Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley,
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno,
Yes.
Commissioner Turner,
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes. Now you have an interlocal agreement with the city of Murfreesboro.
We've been operating under a memorandum of understanding with the city of Murfreesboro for the past 14 years. And we also have memorandums of understanding with other agencies as well, such as Laverne Fire Department and Rutherford County Fire Department and the Airport Authority for first responders. The city of Murfreesboro felt like that it needed to be changed into an interlocal cooperation agreement or an ILA. It replaces the MOU. But the other reason that it was necessary is that the Murfreesboro City Fire Department have enhanced their ability to provide first responder type services, and their personnel are higher in number and better trained, and are capable of doing more things. So this was necessary to bring us up to speed.
Well, I'm gonna ask you, okay, so they're training their people more now.
They have several paramedics, and they have a lot of EMTs that are working for them. The pay, I'm not sure about their EMT pay, but I do know that the paramedic pay is relatively the same in hours, but they don't have to work as hard. For instance, if they go out on a first responder call, then they're there for a few minutes and then they're back in service. Whereas we go there whether they go or not, but when we get there, not only do we have to transport that patient to the hospital, but we also have a ton of paperwork to fill out. It typically takes us about an hour to complete a call. So the bottom line is they're not tied up nearly as long as we are, so therefore they don't have to.
Well, where does one's responsibility begin? Well, I guess the county, because we're required to cover the whole county, correct?
Right. We're the primary emergency medical service in the county, and once our paramedic arrives on the scene, if they're there first, then our paramedic becomes the medical person in charge. And they have certain things that they do for us. They give us all the information that they've gotten prior to our arrival, and what they've done to the patient, whether it's causing any changes or so forth. So they do have some reported work. It's not like they can completely get off of it, but that's given to us.
Further question? What's the difference between this agreement and the previous memo of understanding that we had?
There's not a lot of difference in it. It primarily has to do with the protocols that they operate under. They never have had a medical director before. They have their own medical director now. It just so happens that their medical director is also our medical director, and that was at my suggestion. And so they have to answer to their medical director, who happens to be our medical director, who we answer to. The training is a little bit different than it was in the previous one. We had to approve all their training in the past. We just left that to them now. They can go somewhere else other than where we go to get training or recertification and those kind of things. The protocols are significantly different for them, but their protocols are very similar to ours, and everything that is addressed in this memorandum of understanding is also going to be offered to our other first responding agencies, such as Laverne and the airport and Rutherford County Fire.
If there's no further questions, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second. Any further questions? All in favor of the interlocal agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. EMA.
Sir? I want to see you.
You're doing good.
Just to kind of review one of the two big points over the past month that's in the report. We had some concerns early on in November, if you remember, Colonial Pipeline down in Alabama had yet another incident. It didn't have the same effect on fuel supplies within the county, mainly because of the way people responded. They didn't go fill up everything that would hold gasoline, so it actually worked out pretty well for us, but it was something we were monitoring and concerned about it. The other thing that I've been working on lately is some good people at Middle Tennessee State University's Criminal Justice Administration Department reached out to us because they want to partner with us to some degree on expanding their offerings to include more emergency management curriculum. which of course I'm going to embrace in a heartbeat. So we're working with them now. Now, we took them over to, they want to, one of the things they're constructing, or I don't know if they broke ground yet, but there's going to be a new building that's going to encompass criminal justice as well as some other departments. And one of the things they want to try to put in there is a lab that simulates an EOC, Emergency Operations Center. So I took them to the newest, bestest one I could find, which is Williamson County's. If you hadn't been to see that one, you should. It's bigger and better than the state's right now, in my opinion. So I took them over there. I'm going to take them to the state EOC, and of course they've seen mine. But I think it'll be a good partnership with them. Maybe it'll grow. Just for your information, did some checking on FEMA's website, and of state schools, the only one that offers any type of degree program is a minor by ETSU on that end of the state. So I don't know how accurate that information is, but how often it's updated. But based on some interviews I've done when I had my position where I hire people, you have a lot of people who have an interest in trying to find degrees in emergency management related fields. But all they're finding is the online degree programs with for-profit universities, not necessarily state schools and things of that nature. But so that's a couple of things we're working on. Upcoming events, we have a meeting back over in Williamson County with the Tennessee Middle Region, TEMA's Middle Region. We're doing some training on the 6th of December for Consolidated Utility District for preparedness. And myself and one other member of my staff is going to attend some training up at the state EOC concerning continuity of operations. It's a workshop. It's a 3-day workshop starting on the 6th. Locally, we're doing a CSX tabletop. If you remember a couple of months ago, I had that scheduled, and CSX couldn't do it at that time. It's been rescheduled for December 14th, and we're going to do that over at CUD's large classroom, because last time I was running out of space, so a little bit larger area. As far as our responses, if you notice, there's only a couple on there. It's been kind of quiet up until Wednesday, and I'll not discuss that one too much because I'm sure you probably want to talk to the chief about that, and he's up next. But suffice it to say, some things came out of that. We're going to do an after action with Chief Farley and his people later this week, because no matter what we do and how well we do it, there's always things you can improve on, and we did see some things that we'd like to talk about. And subject to your questions, that concludes my report.
Questions for TK? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve this report.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. That was a pretty charred tractor out there, wasn't it?
They look good that way sometimes.
Okay. Chief Farley.
First of all, I want to apologize. We're on a new reporting system that we've actually got all the volunteer departments are reporting on. It's a lot more simplified. It's a lot more friendly, user-friendly, and we've got everyone engaged in that and doing a better job reporting. So my report's kind of thick this evening. I did a status run on all of our runs and all the volunteer runs, and I think because it's so lengthy, next time I'll just condense it and just do the county-wide, so it won't be so much to go over. But anyway, year to date, Rutherford County Fire Rescue Department has run 2,086 calls, which last year county-wide I think it was 2,600 for the whole county. So we're up also this year. And third page, just a graph showing total number of calls. This software actually went in effect on November the 1st, so it doesn't really cover up to the last public safety meeting. But I tried to input those numbers in this report here to show you what the totals would be. We actually run 102 EMS calls this last month. Let's 66 of those calls were motor vehicle accidents with injuries. 15 were motor vehicle accidents with no injuries. Had 2 extrications. Actually had an animal rescue. We rescued a horse out of a pond.
You found a pond with water in it?
Well, this was some time back. This was before. I think what it was just it got stuck in the mud where it dried up, and they got off in there and sunk up in it. We've been installing smoke detectors, quite a few of those. We had one of those this month. Actually, we did one today. We've had 36 unauthorized burnings. We last weekend we actually ran 46 calls, just going from house to house, asking people to put out their bonfires and recreational fires. And of course, with all the social media, the news and everything, it's amazing how many people wasn't aware we were on a burn ban. But most everybody's been, just about everybody's been understanding when we tell them that they have to put the fire out. But you know, they just don't understand the dangers that can happen, in which we found out last Wednesday what can happen very quickly. We've had 30 fire calls this last month, 4 structure fires. Natural vegetation fires were 23. 9 were actually in the wooded area, a forest or woodline. 16 were brush fires. Just outside rubbish fires were 3. And then so Rutherford County Fire Rescue had a total of 311 calls for last month. The next few pages is just to run down what the volunteers did, and I'll give you a total rundown at the back where we show all the training hours. Year to date, we've had 69 structure fires, 71 brush fires, and of course, the total number of acres is incorrect right there. That's going to have to be updated. 44 vehicle fires, 11 hazmats, 4 swiftwater rescues, and so far 643 MVAs. 28 of those were with extrication, for a total call volume of 2,761 calls year to date. That's for all departments. And then the next page is what we send to the codes department, notifying them of the homes that have structural damage from fire. And then the last report was what we've done fire investigations before and those determinations. Last Wednesday, we're paged out to Manchester Highway, right there close to Epps Mill Road. Somebody had tossed a cigarette out the side of the road. And I talked to the lady that called the call in afterwards, and she said when she seen the fire, it was about that size, and she stopped down at the Mahindra tractor store and pulled off the side of the road and called it in. And she said by the time she got there and stopped and called it in, there was 30 acres on fire. The fire went from Epps Mill Road, jumped Hughes Road, and traveled and jumped East Gum Road, which is almost a mile in length. We had 15 structures endangered. I don't know how in the world. No one's home burnt. We called out, I did both full-time stations out immediately. And then we set our auto-tone for all the volunteers. 11 o'clock in daytime, very limited response. We contacted Murfreesboro. I got 3 engines from them, 2 brush trucks. The only thing we actually lost was a few outbuildings that were made out of wood, little sheds and stuff, you know, little tractors, lawnmowers, stuff like that, but no homes were damaged. And as I went by and surveyed the damage of 233 acres that burnt, in most instances, the fire got right up around the house within inches of the siding. The only damage I had on a home was a small house, about 1,200 square foot, that on the left side of the house looking from the front, the vinyl siding melted. So just a tremendous job by everybody involved there. But when it's all said and done, we had Cannon County, Manchester Fire and Rescue, Bedford County. They sent fire units, and eventually everybody in the county got a piece of apparatus on the scene. But needless to say, if we'd had any other incident at that time, we wouldn't have had a response, because everything we had out there was out on that fire. We stayed out there from 11 o'clock to about 8 o'clock that night, and when we cleared the scene, of course, you're going to have a few little logs and dead wood embers light up, and of course, people are scared after what they've experienced. So we were pretty much out there off and on all night long, and all day Thanksgiving and all day Friday. But we had everybody going in 4 different directions. Just a lot, and we shut down Epps Mill Road from Manchester Highway to East Gum, and a lot of people were just scared, and I still don't understand how we didn't have any homes burned, but everybody just did a tremendous job. Everybody got in front of the fire. When I first got to Hughes Road, it crossed the road, and there was fire from one side of the street and one to the other street. It went across. It was running about 40 miles an hour because there was 30-mile-an-hour winds behind it, and it went across Hughes Road, hit 2 brush piles, went to the top of the trees about 60 foot, and it was just swirling as it went, and it looked like a freight train coming through there. And it was the first time in 27 years I almost panicked. I mean, it was just hard to believe as fast it come through there. So within an hour, it had gone a mile, and then of course we started sending apparatus down East Gum, Hughes Road, going to all the homes and surrounded those, trying to wet the grass down. It got into wood line. And of course, we had several vehicles from different departments that out of county that had 4-wheel drive little vehicles like the little mules or golf cart tanks with water on them. So it was just probably a big event. And I hope we get enough rain. We won't have to worry about that for a while, because it's pretty overwhelming.
How many personnel do you estimate were involved?
At first, probably with everybody in the county, we might have had 30. When all said and done, we probably we actually had too many people there by the time we got it under control, and we started releasing people. We called THP, tried to get up in a helicopter to survey what we had, and when everything kind of calmed down to see, what we did have and what was still burning. We couldn't get a hold of them, so Air Evac landed a helicopter, and I sent one of my captains up, and at that time everything was out with the exception of a few dead logs and stuff that was still burning. So we kind of started going around on ground and surveying the damage, and calling out separate units at that time to come to certain areas and put fires out and make sure, we keep it from spreading. But like I say, tremendous job. And I think 90% of it was just luck.
With the winds coming.
Out of all these brush fires, do you have any idea how many were just accidental and how many may have been intentional?
I don't think, I'm sure there might be some intentional, but I think most of them are accidental. Just somebody traveling down Manchester Highway just flipped a cigarette out the window, and that's what started that. There's no doubt in my mind, based on what the information I received from the lady that called the call in. A lot of people we had a fire over off Veterans where a man had some OSB boards, and he set those on fire and walked off and left it. And he went to the fence line, and went across the field, burned his lawnmower up, and got in the woods. So I mean, it's so dry, and there's no moisture in anything. It doesn't take long for it to travel and get out of hand very quickly. And that's kind of why I've banned all burning in the county. I know the city has allowed people to burn in chimneys and fire pits that are up off ground, and I've said absolutely none, because there's so much wild land, so many dead fields and hay fields where an ember could spread very quickly, and it's not worth risking anybody's house for. And we're lucky. We damaged a vehicle out there, a brush truck, because the wind changed, and I had some guys with some Mercersburg guys, and they actually took off running, and it was going to burn them and burn the vehicle, and one of my guys jumped in the truck and backed up real quick and backed into a tree. It just disintegrated the tailgate, but it didn't destroy the vehicle, which would have if he hadn't moved it. So I mean, through all the chaos and 230 acres burning, and nobody was hurt, nobody lost home. I feel very fortunate.
Appreciate it.
Chief, I think the action of you and all of our volunteer firefighters and then our county firefighters, what y'all did out there the other day has, you know, when we bring up these things at budget times and what it costs and things of this type, people look at how we go to accidents, how we go to small house fires. They never think about incidents like this. And you know, if we didn't have our county firefighters and our fire departments, what this would have been if we didn't have what we had organized. And I certainly appreciate the work y'all did in that, and that we did have this. You know, we never appreciate it until we need it, and I think that was the answer to that. I know those of us out in the rural areas have been watching this for days, expecting anytime anything like that. I've had people telling me they won't bush hog because they're afraid to hit a rock and it'll spark a fire, because I mean, we've seen it and it can happen. I was looking today, I've got privet bushes that are dead, and when they die, I was walking across the field the other day and prickly pears are dead.
Thank goodness.
And that is,
There's
that's
some good
something
about the drought.
and but I'm seeing loads of cattle that are headed to market because they don't have grass for the cattle right now, and they're afraid they're going to use up what feed they've got to handle all their mama stock cattle. So I mean, this is pretty serious business, and I think when you get in serious business like that, I think we're fortunate to have professionals like y'all, and I just want to say we appreciate what y'all did.
Well, I appreciate it, and too, a lot of their response is a testament to the public safety and the full commission, and of course the support of the mayor. We had those new tankers out there. We just got a new one in, the 3,000 gallon tanker that's going to Fossville. It hasn't been put in service yet, but we have 2 of those brand new tankers and all the new engines out there that y'all bought, and I think that went a long way to helping us to have the success that we had. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, that 3,000 gallon pumper tanker is the biggest thing that's happened out there in a while out there in Fossville,
We're
Midland.
pretty excited.
That's better than Christmas, I think, and that's all I hear talk about is that new pumper out there, and it's going to be very important for the families that live out there, because that'll mean a lot.
Well, hopefully, if things keep going well in Rutherford County, we can continue to, just a couple more years, to replace some of this apparatus and have enough stuff in service that we've got plenty of water and plenty of equipment to respond to these type of incidents. But I appreciate your support. And that concludes my report, unless anybody has any more questions.
I just have one question, Chief. Mr. Cass mentioned in his report that there were some notable communication issues with the portable radios. Now, did that affect county teams, or was that just a widespread issue, that something we need to know about as far as something that could be addressed?
I think that, of course, there's still some places in the county. We had a possible structure fire on Trimble Road up in the Last Cass area, and where we were in line of sight of the Milton Tower, and they couldn't even hear me on my mobile. So there is still some issues we're working out, but I think the biggest thing on the Manchester fire was lessons learned by us. And every time we go to these incidents, we reevaluate ourselves, and we're focused on not the things that we do good, and also the mistakes we made. And I think one of the mistakes we made as command structure is we had 4 different divisions, and we should have put each division on a different tactical channel instead of having everybody on one channel. So we, had operations over each division, and I think that's something that we can work on as a fire department, and lessons that we've learned of how to operate better in the future. And I think that's something that we can do on our own. But I know that TK and Peter with EMA are continuing to work on the radio system and do different things to enhance that. But I think on that scene, it was just things that we could do better, and things we can enhance, and changes we can make.
Well, I think you touched on it. I would imagine putting out the fire is goal number 1, but probably 1A is making sure you can talk to the people that need to know where to go to put out the fire.
Yeah, because that's basically what we're doing when we first got there. Is first of all, we're calling for help, and trying to get as much assets on the scene we can use, and then directing those assets where to go.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure we're always aware of that. If there's anything we can do to try to help address things like that, because to your point, it'd be a whole lot worse if you're saying, unfortunately we had loss of life because we couldn't communicate to get to somebody's house to do this and do that. So thank God for watching over them on that day. You just don't want it to be the next time that we have something like that, so.
But, you know, every time, it doesn't matter how good a situation goes, we always critique ourselves and focus on things we could have done better and try to improve that on the next time we have a major incident, or even just try to implement them on the small instance where on the big instance it's just
Yeah,
automatic.
Right. Thank you.
Chief Charlie, you said, I believe, that you made a call out to all volunteers in the county. Can you tell me what type of response you got and how long it took them to get to the fire?
Well, at that point, I realized that both stations were empty. I did an all-call, which pays everybody in the county for brush trucks and tankers. It's 11 o'clock in the daytime. People are working.
Right.
At that point, I got 4 people. I got 2 brush trucks, one from Alma, one from Las Casas. And then that's when we kind of started telling dispatch to go out of county.
Okay.
So at that time, but before it was all said and done, everybody in the county had a piece of apparatus there.
Right.
But at the initial time when we started deploying teams, there wasn't near enough.
Right. So I'm thinking that, you know, we as commissioners need to be thinking of adding another fire station, or possibly 2, one on the east and one on the west side, and staffing them to help with just this type of issues. Now, you know, maybe that's something that we can start looking into.
Well, I mean, if we have a structure fire now, especially in the daytime, it takes both those full-time stations to control that one scene.
Right.
And of course, we try to get whichever station's in, that other station back in service as quickly as possible. But that also, when we have a structure fire, it tires our teams up so much where we have to take our rescues out of service. So if there's an MVA, if SORT doesn't handle it, then we're shorthanded on that aspect too. But,
Right.
I mean, you know, as Rutherford County continues to grow, so is the call volumes for EMS and us.
True.
So I'm just thankful things worked out as good as they did last Wednesday.
I'm grateful that they did. That's only shows that we have a great fire department, county fire department, and fire department altogether, plus surrounding counties that, you know, help pitch in. But that's something I think our commission needs to start looking at, is staffing some more fire departments.
Well, I will say too that I think a lot of the volunteers were working that day were monitoring the radios, and they heard the all call. They realized the significance of the incident.
Right.
And I think since it being the day before Thanksgiving, a lot of them were able to probably leave and start heading toward the station and responding at different apparatus. But at the time when we first got there, you know, it's kind of like when you're at an accident and you get there for the emergency responders do. You think it takes 30 minutes, but it seemed like a long time before help got there. But we did call Murfreesboro, and they responded very quickly. And I know for instance, 2 of the houses on Manchester Highway, the fire was closing on them, and they got there with 2 engines and 2 brush trucks and saved those 2 structures. So I mean, it was a valiant effort by everybody, and I give credit to all the volunteers and everybody that in the county was there doing their part.
Yeah.
Once we got everybody there.
That's great. Thank you.
Is there anything we can do, as expensive as all this apparatus, and fire trucks, paid people? Is there anything we can do to enhance our volunteers?
Of course, the volunteerism is down 80% across the nation.
I know.
We continue to recruit. Fossville got a $500,000 grant to recruit firefighters. So I mean, and we try as much as we can to recruit young people, and it seems like by the time we go through a rookie class of 8 to 10 weeks and teaching basic firefighting and education, if you get a year or 2 years out of a volunteer, you're doing well. But it's like I told the public safety ever since day one, it seems like it's just a revolving door, and we're constantly just doing the basic firefighting. That's why I'm so appreciative of the paid guys that we do have, because they're there and we can do some more advanced training and different aspects of things as far as tactical and different type of rescues and stuff. But you know, it seems like we're always doing just the basic training and teaching firefighters. You know, most of what we get is young college kids, and by the time that they get involved, they get married and they have kids and they're gone. So I mean, it's just there's just so much going on. You know, kids are playing soccer, they're in dance, they're in karate, they're in everything. And it's just hard to get people and hang on to them. But I know that every volunteer fire department is always constantly trying to recruit, trying to get people to help, and really there's just much more training involved as far as state requirements now that were back 20 years ago. Back 20 years ago, you joined the fire department, they throwed you a hat and a helmet and said, when the truck leaves, be on it. And that's pretty much all the training you got. But yet I have to have 5,000 hours of training before I can cut your hair. So
You'd have to have more.
Not mine. Mine would be much less than 5,000 hours.
Less for Brian.
Yeah, it wouldn't take you long at all.
okay. Any other questions?
Well, if not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Further questions? All in favor of approving the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And again, I do want to thank y'all for the apparatus because it did play a vital part when we did win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry.
Yeah, you better holler at me. I'm gonna go out of here every time.
Juvenile detention.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay. All right, in front of you, you have our reports for the month of October. And I will happily address any questions on any of the pages. I'm happy to report that our STD stats for October are greatly reduced, so we're happy about that. And before I get into my additional information, I'll just see if you have any specifics about the monthly reports.
What's the age range between the children you keep there?
Youngest that we detain would be 8, and the oldest that we detain would be 18.
Wilson County. It's got usually the
They're doing
county.
some good business with us, aren't they?
Yeah. Is that pretty much all this past month?
Yes, that's everything on that page is for October. So Wilson County has had some busy children.
Must have been put soap suds or something in the fountain in Lebanon, right? So, any questions of Ms. Duke on her report? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report. Sorry, Joe. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, several months ago, I brought a request forward to apply for, and then if we received it, accept some Title I money for the detention center. This is something that we've been doing for a couple of years now. And it funnels through an agency called the Tennessee Alliance for Children and Families. And we did receive that grant money this year, and it was for $124,000 and some change. So, because we went ahead and accepted that, there is a budget amendment that goes along with it. The money is federal money, and so they are on a different fiscal year than we are. So we actually end up using this money in 2 separate fiscal years. This grant money basically reimbursed the county for money that we spend already. So the budget amendment is to increase by $20,000 and some change into a part-time line item and some Social Security, Medicare, also maintenance equipment, instructional supplies, other supplies and materials, and another other charges line item. It's all going to be used as part of the education program at the detention center, the majority of which will be to add an additional part-time education assistant. So we, when we're doing our budget, we are conservative in what we suspect we might get from this grant. So we only had to increase our budget by $20,020 to cover what we were actually awarded. I hope I explained that well enough. So that's the what the budget amendment is for.
Do you have questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do have, what would have happened if this grant had only come through for $50,000? Or how do you know it?
We, the first couple of years that we got the grant, we went heavy on our supplies and materials so that in future years we could take care of the staff members that receive money from this grant. So if it had been less than we suspected it would have been, then we would not use the money on the supplies to restock, so to speak, and we would just take care of the employees that the grant covers. It's based on population, so we can kind
So
of
you
guess
get a pretty
it.
good idea.
Of course, you know, our population swells and then, you know, and decreases. So, but we could kind of guess what we thought it was going to be. Our population at the time was higher, so we got a little more.
Further questions? Call the roll, please, Becky.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Serrano?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
I have one last item. It's about this grant. We were informed just recently that the Tennessee Alliance for Children and Families, which is where this federal money funds through, is no longer going to be the administrator of this grant money. What they intend to do is give it to each county's Board of Education, and then that Board of Education can decide to take this dependent neglect money and share it back with us or do something altogether different. So we're currently in talks with Rutherford County Board of Education and hope that we can convince them to continue to allow us to have some of this grant money so that we can do what we do with it.
So you have been just getting it all yourself, right?
Well,
they
the
come-
Title I has different parts.
Yeah.
Board of Education still gets a huge chunk of change from Title I funding. This is dependent neglect funds, which the Board of Education would have not, prior to this change, had anything to do with. It's specifically for our population. Now, the Board of Education can handle our population in several different ways, and they haven't decided how they're going to do that yet. So that's just letting you know, in the event that the Board of Education chooses to do something different, my budget may be affected by.
And you're talking about the School Board of Education?
Yes, Rutherford County.
We get a lot of Title I funds for, depending on income, and they get extra EAs, all kinds of things that
Do
they'll
you,
get.
do you need this body to reflect to the Board of Education our desires?
Let's see how our talks are going, and then if I think I need an extra boost, then I'd like to be able to come back and ask for that. But I don't want to jump the gun just yet. We're still getting a meeting set up to kind of work through it.
What you're saying is, hopefully it's gonna all work out favorably for all
Right.
parties, okay? We just leave it go at that for the time being,
That'd be
because we
great.
got April, May, before we have to really start working, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Correctional Work Center, Superintendent Slandy.
How y'all doing?
Good, good.
All right. Our report starts with the board meeting on November 7th. The first thing discussed, of course, was the minutes, and then went to the expenditure report. The highlight of that was pretty much discussing the repairing of a canopy. It was completed. It still has some electrical work to be done by county maintenance, but as far as repairing and replacing of the canopy, that was completed a couple of weeks ago. Next highlighted business of the board meeting, we discussed briefly about the mental health collaboration grant. The money has been approved to last us through December, and then the new grant will kick in January 2017. One of the minor issues, it could be a major issue, we're looking to place 2 positions there to fulfill the grant. We just control the money and also facilitate the program, of course, at the workhouse and with our inmates. Volunteer behavioral is responsible for hiring the individuals and overseeing that aspect of it. So they are diligently looking for 2 employees. I think they have one. And, supposed to come by tomorrow and take a look at the workhouse and make sure they're comfortable with the surroundings. And one of the things is the salaries. It's been kind of hindering that. We were blessed to win the grant, but when the grant was drafted, they kind of set the scale as far as the salary kind of low, and so especially the therapist position, that's a master's degree position, and right now it's kind of difficult, but I think we'll get past that once they hire someone. The other highlight was the volunteer banquet that was held on November 9th. That is really twofold why we do that. It's probably the second one we've done in 7 years, just to show appreciation, of course, for the volunteers and just the collaboration and the impact they have on the inmates. But the other thing is something we've been working on with Deputy Mayor Davidson, is trying to collaborate and get everybody under one umbrella to work together and pretty much be on the same net, so they'll know what individuals have been to what programs and not just jumping from one to the other and not really communicating. So once we get that in place, and Jeff Davidson has been working with the United Way to use their software to get that initiated, so we're working on that for the near future. Other than that, that was all we covered with the board meeting.
Question. Mr. Rudd, is he still going to be on the board, or has...
Mr. Rudd, the last board meeting, I don't know, did he put in his resignation yet? Matt Burger stepped out.
Yeah.
But he did convey that to us, that was this November 7th would be his last meeting. He researched it. There wasn't really any reason that he couldn't do it legally. He just felt that with his obligations now with the state, that it will take away from what he has to do. So that position should be posted soon. Like I said, that's the board meeting discussions. The next are reports, the activity reports, the work release report, and the monthly worker reports. Based on our population and the work details, everything is moving along. We have been drafting to present to you, to this committee at some point, something that was initiated by Jeff Davidson again, the balanced scorecards. I think it'll really help, and I've seen it help with other agencies that use it to kind of let you guys know more in detail our mission, our goals, and what we're trying to achieve. I think we did a good job with it. We just wanted to present it to Jeff Davidson, and he's been critiquing it, so he's back there smirking. So we'll once he gives us his blessing, we'll start presenting it to the committee. But unless there's any other questions about the reports.
Make a motion to approve the report as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Any further questions? If not, all in favor of approving the report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. King.
Good evening.
Recovery Court.
Yes. Okay, so the first part of the recovery court, we have our statistics for DUI, drug court, and our veterans treatment court. They pretty much remain the same or similar to what I reported last month. We have 36 participants in October in drug court. We had 36 in DUI. And we had 16 in veterans treatment court. So I believe it gave us a total right at 88 total people in our programs, which is pretty significant. Those numbers are increasing, so in November, those numbers will go up as well. Still the primary focus that we have in this county is opiates as well as alcohol. Those tend to be our two top trending drug choices.
Well, that's in the state too, isn't it?
It is.
Pretty much.
It is. I mean, marijuana has declined considerably, which is surprising. For the longest, marijuana was our number one drug of choice. If you have any questions or report.
Any questions on the stats?
So we have hired our mental health court case manager. She will start December 14th. We were lucky to steal her away from Mental Health Co-op. She has a master's in mental health counseling, so she will be a huge asset for us going forward.
She's from here?
She is originally from Baltimore, but she's relocating to here. But she's been living in Nashville for the last several years. So we're looking forward to having her come on board. And we should have our mental health court operational sometime mid-December. So not too far away. We have already begun taking a couple people looking at them now, pending her arrival into it. We will have a full master's level intern that will be assigned with her next semester that will help her in her caseload. So that'll help boost free labor. We are in the process of working with MTSU Social Work Department to create a kind of a lab, clinical lab for the drug court, mental health court type of programs where they allow the university to start rotating master's level interns on a semester basis. So that's cheap labor for us, it's free labor, and these are qualified individuals that can do the type of work that we need. So this will help solve our staffing issue to some degree.
And that will also help them gain experience.
Absolutely. So eventually we would like to have a therapist in that program, but that's a little ways off. And we'll just rely on volunteer behavioral and the co-op to help with that if needed. We're still working on our grant for 2017. It will not be awarded till then. One of the professors for MTSU, Dr. Ferris, has agreed to write the narrative for us this year. So far it's 30 pages. I think that's the max. So we're going to have to kind of dwindle that down a little bit. We still have to add the budget, the narrative, and everything else. She is a very creative writer. She's very good at what she does. But hopefully, with some luck, we will be awarded that grant, which will leave us about $325,000 a year. And no matching cost.
Is that an all or nothing grant?
It is. Outside of that, the Recovery Corps staff will be attending the annual Tennessee Association of Drug Court Professionals Conference in Chattanooga this year. The last several years it's been in Murfreesboro at the Embassy Suites. The prices at the Embassy went up, so they took their conference elsewhere, so that will be a little hit for the, yes, so that will be some decrease in revenue for the county, but hopefully next year we're trying to work that back out to have them here again. So. And that's part of why the budget amendment was there, knowing that the conference was going to be in Chattanooga this year. Based on the award that we receive from the state every year, we were going to move at least $1,954 into our line item for our travel and service development line item to cover that additional cost. So that kind of relates to that budget amendment.
Well, we can look at the budget amendment in a moment, but we'll take a motion on the reports and, first before we get to the expenditures and revenues and the budget amendment. No further questions on the reports. We'll entertain the motion. The motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll look at the budget amendment now.
In the original, this was we had $40,000 that we had in our other supplies and materials that we received from the state. We're taking $5,000 from our in-service development and increasing that to $1,954. The state did approve that through our grant budget submission, so that will just help cover the cost for the travel and the training in Chattanooga this year.
Heard the request, it's within his budget.
Motion to approve the request.
Your motion?
Second.
Second. Okay. Call the rolls, please, Ms. Shelton.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes. Now we get to the good part.
Seems to be everybody's favorite topic. So our probation here. So for our total monthly expenditures for October, our expenditures were right at $110,233.82. Year-to-date expenditures for the quarter is $401,310.04. Our total budget for the year is $1,436,668. But as you'll see from that number there, since this is kind of our quarter, if you do that by the next 3 months, we are going to come in a little lower, about $200,000 less than what we budgeted for. So we are on track to save from where we are. So we're trying to be as frugal and as fiduciary responsible as possible. But our total collections and revenue, based on program fees, drug screen fees, our electronic monitoring fees, as well as our supervision fees, came in at $72,229.43. So that was a difference of $38,004.39. Our collections with the court cost fines and fees totaled $219,108.96 for the total difference of $108,875.14. We had 139 probation cases placed on the payment plan with the court clerk's office for the month of October. So total amount of probation fees owed to the department is $14,248.04. Total court cost fines and fees and other items owed to the courts are 157, 848, 41 for a grand total of 172, 96, 45. And then the other documents are just the backup supporting documents showing expenditures from our local government accounts as well as our revenue reports.
Questions for Mr. King? If not, we'll entertain a motion on the revenue and expenditures.
Move its approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further questions? Quick one.
Yes, sir.
Nobody else wanted to ask it, I guess. When probationers are put on the payment plan, does it seem, in your opinion, to be working fairly? And
It is. I think we're bringing in right around $5,000 or $6,000 a month, and it really varies depending on their income. So some may start not to pay, but when the clerk talks about taking away their driver's license if they have it, then they always come up with additional funds to get back into line. So I think it's still relatively new down there, but I mean, we're optimistic.
Okay.
With a pending lawsuit and everything else, I don't think we have any other choice but to try other ways than what that is.
Okay. No further questions? All in favor of the revenue and expenditures report signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you. Is there anything else that y'all would like to see besides the numbers from probation? Or bore you if you don't want it, but.
No, it's good. Appreciate you providing it.
The whole thing's needed, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Good. OSHA report.
I'd like to report that in the month of October, we had a total of 19 injuries requiring medical attention. That brings the total for the year to 163. Of those 163, 90 of them were OSHA recordable, 43 of them had restricted days, 25 lost time days, and 22 all others. Look at the next page of your report, compared to 2 previous years to this year. This year we're at 163. Last year this time we were at 168. 2 years ago it was 181. As far as the incurred dollars, this year we're at 389,000. Last year 451, and then 2 years ago 220,000. Just to remind you, those incurred dollars, it usually takes about a year for those dollars to settle down. They're estimated dollars on what it will take to close out a claim, and then should those claims have additional treatment, then it will go up. If they close them out early, then of course those dollars come down. So that's why it does take usually a year for those dollars to settle down. For the month of October, the 19 claims had total incurred dollars estimated at $23,360. The Board of Education had 14 claims. The incurred dollars for those 14 is $19,410. The County General had the other 5. And the incurred dollars there were $3,950. And then the last page of your report breaks out the 5 for the County General between the Sheriff, the Solid Works, and Correctional Work Center.
I have a question for you.
I'm
On the
sorry?
Board of Education, do you have any information as to how many of those 14 are students versus employees?
Well, when you say students, again,
Or does this include
they're all related to the employee. The employees are the only ones that we pay the injury for, but as far as how many of them are related to the students, let's see. Quite a few of them are related to the students, either running into the teacher or striking or injuring somebody like that. Special needs, students or teacher being hit by a ball. The only ones that would not be something like a teacher slip and fall on water from a water cooler. I've had where teacher hit, most of them are where the teachers are involved with the students, so I'm looking at the report.
Any further questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve this report.
Got a motion and a second. Further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Gregory.
For the month of October, we had 657 animals enter into the shelter. You can see down at the bottom that we had 67.2% that were either adopted or reclaimed, 27.7% that were euthanized. If you look there, you'll see that our cats continue to drive our euthanasia rate. We're doing research, actually. I've spoken with Huntsville and should be making a trip down there over the next week or so to determine what they're doing and what's working there. They're about the same population as us. Our live release rate was 69.9%, and 102 of the animals that were reclaimed came from our surgery programs. We had 2,542 people visit the shelter during the month, and 2,025 log calls and voicemails. 1,582 calls received and 1,614 calls completed, and we traveled 10,646 miles. Year to date, we've had 2,552 animals enter into the shelter, an adoption and reclaim percentage of 63.1%, and a euthanasia rate of 30.2%. Our total live release rate, when you take in the animals that can be relocated, are 66.4%.
When you say year-to-date, are you talking
Since July.
calendar?
Since July, fiscal, yes, sir. Normally, we're seeing in October, early November, things start to slow off. The warm weather, though, has extended the breeding season. Last year around this time, we couldn't hardly find kittens. Now we still got them coming out our ears. I think based on the heat that we saw, we may not see a slow period this year. That's concerning for us as well as other shelters as well. We had 6,577 calls received this fiscal year, 6,624 completed, and traveled over 42,000 miles. On the rabies exposure and bite report, this one runs calendar year, not fiscal year. We had 23 bites for the month reported. 2 of those were tested, did not come back as positive. We had 7 other exposures. 1 of those was tested and it did come back positive. You'll see down on line 11 at the bottom, it was a skunk that became in contact with someone's animal and it tested positive. Last month, I believe it was you, Commissioner Piercy, I may be wrong, you had asked me to bring stats that showed the breakdown of the calls that we run.
Right.
And that is another report that you've got. I think it's called activity report by jurisdiction. I think is how I labeled that.
Yeah.
This report is pulled straight from our Chameleon system. If you'll go down, it lists the type of calls we run, and then it lists them by jurisdictions. If you look down on page 3, that will give you the total calls that were received. Down at the very bottom, of course, it takes all those different types of calls and adds those together. The very last page tells you the calls that were completed, and again, it breaks those down. I don't know if you want me to go into detail on what those different types of calls are, or necessarily what you were looking for on that. So I'll be happy to answer questions on that. I know that's something new, and if you want me to provide this every month, I'll be more than happy to. I just need to know it's simple for me to print it out and scan it.
I think my main concern was the being a repetitive call.
Repetitive?
Yeah.
I don't have a way currently to track repetitive, repetitive calls to the same address?
Yes.
Okay. I don't currently have a report that pulls that. I will have to get with OIT to see if there's a report that can be created that does that. So I currently don't, but I will check into that for you, sir.
Because I've heard the comment made more than once. Well, we've called them 3 or 4 times, and I'm sure you win every time.
Right.
So
I'll have to figure out how we can track that. There may be I'll get with Brad. He's a genius when it comes to that stuff. I'm sure he can figure something out for me. I'll let him handle the computer stuff. I'll stick to the other.
Any further questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the report.
second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor of approving the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our favorite.
Did everyone get a copy of that report? I know you didn't. Did everybody get the report that was emailed out? I know it got blocked on your email,
Yeah.
likely. I brought a copy just in case. Sorry it didn't go through. It went via email, but I think antivirus trapped part of it. Did it?
I think I caught it, yeah.
Yeah, it renamed it to a
Windmill.
win file, not that file. It tends to get trapped that way. A lot of times PDF and Word documents, Microsoft Word documents do email though. You do have it, sir? Just want to make sure it's got, we'll let the amendments go if you guys want to look at those first. However you want to do it.
Well, we go ahead and take your reports. Now, what's this, the 4th month? So we can look at them basically
You
and,
want to look at the reports, okay?
yeah, and ask if anything is out of order percentage-wise. Maybe it should be. The standard one there, and let you tell us, because you're looking in.
It's basically what you would expect. I think it's mainly doing actually very well. Except for what we haven't asked for tonight.
Just take a minute and look at them, and if you have any questions on either the sheriff's office or detention.
Notice in food preparation supplies, you got what, 33% left?
Let's see, in food prep supplies, we do. Most likely, we usually have to come back at the end of the year to ask for food in 422 and food prep supplies.
Food supplies is 50% right now, so
Almost 60. The other one is in detention, and it's 354. That's
That's
prison.
the one we're asking for tonight.
Okay. It seems like we're getting a lot of them around the country on that. I mean, to where we got to get.
And they're going up, the extradition companies are all going up. We just had this conversation today.
Okay.
good. We're going to Mississippi tomorrow. We're going
Garden spot.
back. Meridian.
Yeah, thank you. Are any other questions on the report? If not, when you're ready, we'll take a motion to approve their reports.
Move its approval.
Second.
Motion second. Anything further? Okay. All in favor of approving the report signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, how about we take the budget amendment?
The first one is to recognize revenue from insurance recovery. It was on 2 checks into new vehicles. And the second one is to transfer within our budget from other equipment into the extraditions or prisoner transport.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the budget amendment as submitted.
Second.
Motion is second. Further questions?
Yeah, I've got one. How far will $10,000 go for a new vehicle? What are we gonna do with that money?
Well, actually, that goes into the new vehicles to help replace, I think these 2 were totaled. But- So it just moves into
With
new
other
vehicles.
money?
Right, with other monies
With
that's
other-
there.
Sorry.
He won't buy a
It's
new
just,
vehicle.
Oh,
no,
no,
it
no.
won't. It just goes into, this is 2
Part of the
checks that
fund.
that went
Right.
into.
It's the value that they were given.
No further questions? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Nipper?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Turner?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just,
Oh,
I think
I'm
it's to
sorry.
go through just what's the average for the month of October in the jail?
The population?
Yeah.
Daily average, about 7, being fair, it fluctuates every weekend.
Yeah.
So this morning, it was around 771. The judge will make, she'll do her job this week, and it'll get back down. I think prior to the holiday, it was down around in the
766 last
Yeah,
Wednesday.
760s, and then it'll climb back up. And I mean, and over a long weekend, we see an uptick in it.
Sure.
But it's slowly,
Okay.
It's moving in the right
Under
direction.
800.
moving down just a little bit at a time, which is significant, certainly. It's decreasing.
So we won't have to hear anything on food supplies this year.
Right. Well, the sergeant, I talked to her this morning, as a matter of fact, she brought up just interesting things that we see. She has to go buy, for instance, certain types of special peanut butter for those on special dietary needs. She has to go acquire this elsewhere. She can't get her vendors to send that, so she's having to go get, for instance, 21 jars to deal with this for a certain period of time. So there's little things, that these special things that we have to deal with as well that sometimes cost a little more.
Well, in May, or April, you have no idea what those are gonna be for the
No,
next year.
you don't. There's speculation on it.
You probably have some people that converted religions while they were out there, or right when they came in.
Do we still have any, I guess, youth prisoners in the medical area?
We do. Yes, sir. That is still a burden that we're having to bear. And unfortunately, as we've been made to understand, that once that person is designated by the judge to be adjudicated, or they're not emancipated, but once they're going to be adjudicated as an adult, then it goes to, it's not the judge's call, as I've been told. It belongs to circuit court at that point. So, and it falls upon us to take care of that person and isolate that person, and to, again, it's you're putting one person in a cell. You keep them completely away from everybody else. The only interactions they have are with the detention staff that they're allowed to be around. So we actually, at this point, we have 2.
I was just wondering, as our numbers have gone down a little bit, are we finding any place?
The one that we had, Commissioner, actually turned 18 in October, so now we would have had 3. So
Because I know how important that medical area that we have there
Very much so.
would really help our situation as far as individuals that have medical problems.
I came in over the weekend, actually, I think it was a holiday weekend on Friday, and spent about an hour sitting with Ken Tucker, medical, and talking about some of the issues we need to look at and things that maybe with the, looking at the, since we're right at the edge of some other things needing to take place, this might be some things we need to look at in their realm. And we're going to help them out and do. About 35% of this nation's incarcerated are in need of mental health. And so we've really got to consider the fact that we've transitioned, and I know it's been talked about up here, so I won't go into it at length, but now that we're having to provide these things and seeing the type of inmates with those particular needs, we're going to have to start assessing that the moment they walk in the door. And we've also got to set up some assessment programs, and we've talked about this recently, that again, it becomes a need, but it's also a burden on manpower to make sure that you're not taking a gentleman or a lady who's been picked up on a bad check and putting them in an isolation or into a holding area with someone who's in here on a violent crime. We just really don't need to take on that burden of the liability that it can bring. So that assessment has to be made on the front end instead of after it happens, unfortunately. Are you guys comfortable with the October statistics? I wanted to make sure that that's any questions you would have on any of those numbers. I know we've still got issues with the patrol numbers, and I apologize. It's just we're going to try to get the software, but we had to prioritize on what that person worked on. It was going to be the Tibers reports and making sure we're compliant there, and we'd like to let him look at that. But right now we are still on target for the December 13th go live on the CAD software for us and Murfreesboro and EMS and fire and Rutherford Fire, Mercer Fire. And that we've got a target date. Matter of fact, I think Bill Terry at Mercer is going to sign off on the okay on his side of that to go live. I think I saw that today. So on at 3 a.m. on the 13th of December, we're going to do it late at night, so it's less impactful.
Could you find a different date than the 13th?
The 14th. Well, quite frankly, you guys know that I made you a promise that this is going to happen before the end of the year. And I targeted it at November 29th. And we tried to go there. And there were some issues with some of the mapping and GIS capability and some things that need to get done first. Some compatibility things that we had to do to be compliant with the state's, what they call the local government data model, the state's mapping. And we all have to be compliant with that now. That's what format they use. With that caused a few little changes. So with that, we had a couple of weeks built in there as padding. And so they said they would move out to that. I said, we're not going to pass the first of the year because, again, I put my neck out and said I'm going to have this done before the end of the year. Plus, we have to have it done in order to get it in a good, clean 2017 annum of data. So December the 13th, sir.
Any questions on the statistics from the different divisions? Well, what I'd ask Chief Lowry to do is to get us a status of report, and it's up less than a week, right before Thanksgiving, so when he's got these figures are from, and just show us where we are with the positions out there that have been approved either in the past or this last budget cycle, and to let us know what has been filled and what is opened. And we just switched from detention to booking and this, and then to explain where those, like for example in patrol, thank you very much, are sitting, that are going through their certification and this type thing, and just to give us an update. And he's got copies. We're going to put them downstairs in the boxes when we finish, so everybody that we've been interested in it, and now we'll get the most up-to-date skinny we can.
I'll print off better copies. These, obviously, as you can see, didn't turn out on the color copier. It faded out. So we're going to make some more and get those to you for all the commissioners to see. But again, I'm not going to read through the entire report, but just to touch on some things. There's a block in here that doesn't show well. The figure 1 is what we had prior. We're added to patrol. We had 7 open. We filled 7. In detention, we had 8. We filled 0 so far. But we added 4 to booking, which was not filled, and then pre-existing in patrol we had 4. Those pre-existing and 4 in patrol are in the second paragraph. Those are the people that were actually being replaced due to normal attrition, changes within the department, people leaving, going this and there. Those folks have already been hired. They have already graduated the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, and they're currently in our FTO program now. From my understanding, we're going to hopefully have those guys, they'll be coming available when they get past these processes in the next couple months, actually. So to move further down, they had 7 additional positions, but the ones that were granted, so to speak, they have been filled. Some of those are new hires, or all those, 3 of those are post-certified in the new hires. A couple came out of detention, so that helps us a lot with not having to send those people to the academy. The other 4 have been slotted to go to the academy in the very near future, and then they should complete their academy hopefully in May. And at that point, when they come back, they'll have some subsequent training in the FTO program. So it's a long process. And again, it's an amalgam of things that can happen when you look at these pieces of how these things play together. There's been 2 additional openings that are going to be counted against that in December. We have recently had a patrol deputy tender his resignation. He'll be leaving in the very near future, and a patrol deputy sergeant tender his resignation. But the one to consider is the patrol sergeant. When a sergeant leaves, you have to test the corporal that's going to replace that sergeant. You have to test the deputy who's going to replace and interview those people. Then you have to hire and replace that one, and you have to put them to the academy. If they don't have post-certification, then you have to train them through the FTO program. So it can be a long process to replace that one person, especially if they're a supervisor. So I went on to mention the 12 detention personnel. I apologize. And because the 12 detention personnel that were granted, when we looked at the 7 patrol persons, since some of those were pulled from detention, that made a higher deficit in that office as far as numbers do we need to hire. So currently there are 10 openings. I apologize, excuse me. But when we look at the 10 openings, and these 10 openings are going to be interviewed for on the 6th and the 9th of December. And then they're going to, actually they have promotions. They're going to interview for the booking officers, the 4 that were reallocated out of the 12 that were granted. So technically that gives them a deficit of 14 people when you look at the other 4 that they're going to have to deal with. And they're going to do that on the 29th of November.
Okay, and now these 10 openings for actually in detention themselves, do you know roughly how many applications you've had so far, and the applications
They're still,
closed
at
now?
the time, they have closed. I don't know the numbers they're going to interview on the 6th. Actually, they're going to have, I don't recall the exact numbers they're going to have on those dates, because they've also told me about some other interviews. They've had a fair number of applications, but what we're looking at and what I was able to get from Ms. Rooker, Debbie, I was able to provide something. Our turnover in detention has been rather high. We've had people who have left after 2 days, 2 weeks, 5 months, 8 months. And again, during that, exactly what Chief Farley was saying earlier is a revolving door in some regard, because you get them in, you start them in the training program if they get beyond the 2 days. And you start this training process, and you spend all this time on them, and then they're out the door, and you've got to start all over again fresh with the next person that you hire. Just an example, she gave me some numbers that I didn't include in that report, but their deficit right now is about 10%. The sheriff's office, the detention center is anyway. The sheriff's office side is about 1% at the moment because of the number of just a few. We have the civilian, the sergeant, and the patrol that we've got to look at on that side. The thing to consider is that the number of hired that we looked at from July up till now for detention and communications and patrol and resources, we've got 16 detention hires. And with that, you've had 10 resigned or terminated. So or for whatever reason decided to leave. They could have retired. We had an SRO retire, which in turn means we have to backfill that person with someone usually out of patrol, or they could transfer out of transport or court security. Then again, they have to go through the SRO training. So there's several weeks of training that we're kind of, Major Grissom has been able to accommodate some of them a little bit, and the other major is he, because understanding that if we take someone out of patrol instantly to put them in SROs, it's a problem on his, he can't cover a shift. Then again, we have to worry about the school, so we make sure that whatever we're doing, we try to find a school that has 2 SROs if we're going to have to pull one and transfer them somewhere else. So it's a balancing act constantly, and it's an interesting interaction. The majors are sharing people with one another basically until they can get a time to where it doesn't cause such a problem on their shifts.
Is this not the nature right now, though, of law enforcement?
Yes, sir, it is.
Because especially
Public
with a
safety.
county like us that has such low unemployment.
Mhm.
And,
Yes, sir, it's true.
and you've got a situation where somebody can go out here and get a job
That's the problem in
that
detention.
pays very well.
Yes, sir.
And, I mean, let's face it, they're not in the position that they can be shot at
Yes,
or be placed in those dangerous positions. And, but when you, I don't know, I've looked on the web, and that seems to be nationwide, that
It is.
those numbers are showing it a step down.
We're competitive. I mean, we're not in the higher percentages, obviously, but we're competitive in starting pay for officers, and in, within the region, we have to have that caveat.
I can understand that in detention. I know what time I have spent over there in the tower, and just,
Yes, sir.
that's not my cup of tea, and I think it would take a very special person to do that.
It does, and
And,
with detention, without getting too deep into it, when you're starting someone a little over $14 an hour, and they know that I'm going to have to work nights, I got to work weekends, I got to deal with what you just described, the hectic, crazy, dangerous aspect of things that can be in there. And then when someone offers them an opportunity to work at a hardware store and make the same amount of money, and they got weekends off and get home at night, and, they may reconsider what they're doing. So, and we see people leaving to go other places. It's not that they're getting completely out. We've seen detention officers leave to go to THP or to other law enforcement agencies. But again, you are completely right. I do know that the city of Murfreesboro has a large deficit in patrolmen right now. The county of Smyrna does as well, Smyrna PD. I think everybody's suffering and seeing that right now. It's hard to find, and we know it's socioeconomic. We get that. It's the culture. It's the thing. We know that the concept of law enforcement has been on a roller coaster here a while back, and with how everybody, or what the perception was. But it was nice to hear recently that overall those numbers have come considerably up as far as support within law enforcement. And we unfortunately we've lost a lot more officers this year than we did in the last year, and that's something we have to really consider. And that's part of it. I think people are trying to think whether or not they want to take that chance now and get out there and do that. I'm very proud of these people. I am every day of what they go out and go up against. They don't know. They really don't know what they're going to see when they get out there. And that's part of the draw for some of them, because never a day's the same. But then again, you never know what you're going to run into. So, and the same thing goes for all the people behind the scenes, the dispatchers, communicators, everybody that works there, that the detention officers, that people carrying prisoners back and forth. That's a very dangerous job too. So that's the thing that we have to consider, and it may be something that in the future we have to look at, but right now I think we've got to stay the course and just try to do the best we can. And again, I was listening very intently to what Chief Bartlett was saying about trying to get his people paid, and it's, you can be very competitive, but you still have people going out the door. There are agencies in this county that pay quite well, but again, they have people leaving. And to go into real estate or technology, or whatever you might see, it's happening everywhere. And I know that they had, I talked to a dear friend on the very north end of this county at an agency, and they had, I think he told me, of 2 weekends that they tested, that they actually had a great number of people they tested, numerous people. They had one weekend, but still they had 5 that qualified, and of that 2 passed, and then they've got 3 candidates to deal with right now. And that's the thing you're running into is, do you change your standards for hiring? Do you go and open those things up. We've got a lot of things we've got to look at. You know, we have to hold the post standards. We don't have a choice. We have to hold the post standards, and we will. But you see agencies that are, or states and other agencies in other states that are getting statewide legislation changed so that they can hire people with different types of criminal records, things of that nature. So I mean, it's not something that I think law enforcement administrators, as many of the times I've had chances to sit in schools and sit in classrooms, that's not something they want to do. It's just something they seem to be forced into doing.
Do they have to live in this county to work at your jail?
They do not, no, sir. And I've seen places do that that required residency. And again, I think you're narrowing the pool too much by doing that. I really do. I mean, if a person can you know, reasonably make it to work, you know, I'm not going to say that they don't. I wouldn't want somebody to have to drive an hour and a half to get to work and then have to work a 10-hour shift and then have to deal with that going on. That'd be kind of thing you have to think about as far as fatigue goes. But we've had numerous people within the sheriff's side and the detention side that live and still do live out of county.
Metro tried that until about 20 years ago when people couldn't afford to live in Metro. And the same thing is happening of course I live very close, within about a half a mile as the crow flies, the Williamson County line. I can show you where 4 or 5 Williamson County deputies parked their cars. They're living in Rutherford County and working in Williamson County, because my guess is they can't afford to buy a house in Williamson County when the median household house is $550,000. So they're living in Rutherford County and working in Williamson County.
No, you're exactly right. Yeah,
It really doesn't work.
We're going to see that, and I think you're going to see folks. I do know that the town of Smyrna requires their department heads to live inside the city, but they did back off on the employees. That was talked about many years ago. I don't think they'd want to go down that road. The rest of the report, like I said, there's a chart in here. It's copied better in color, and Major Grissom can explain it if you have any questions about it. We're going through we're trying to get used to doing things a little bit differently. We're trying to get used to doing, and it's a great thing. I'm a proponent of NeoGov, the online application process, but we have some things in fine tuning we need to do on our side of it as far as requirements go. So we're going through those. There's a sentence in here about a vacant administrative chief deputy position. There's no current plan to fill that at the moment. There were 4 dispatch personnel, emergency communications personnel. They are training right now. They hope to be done as of April. That is a long, drawn-out training process as well. And then we actually were able to fill 2 part-time personnel in dispatch. One was a part-time dispatcher. The other was a part-time NCIC data entry person. And we had one that had to leave because of health issues, and another one who that was connected to that, so they left. But we've been able to get those filled with former employees, so the training has not been an issue. It's been very nice to be able to do that. Again, one of the comments in here is the fact that we are generally in a state of fluctuation, and we classify and promote from within and then backfill those openings, but that causes the subsequent interviews. It seems like we're having interviews to do that on a very constant basis. And a matter of fact, Major Grissom has today closed out for lateral applications for the sergeant position. For anyone, he put it out last week to see if anyone was interested in applying laterally for the sergeant position. No one chose to do that. The ones that were where they are like to be where they're at, apparently, and they want to stay where they are. So the opening will come up for all those others. It opened up so that people can apply if they want to be interviewed and considered for the sergeant position. And that's the thing. With these, when we pull from one division to another, it causes a cascading effect because we always have to, pull that back in there. And again, we want to evaluate this and look at it and cause less disruption as possible. But I think what we've done over the last few months with making sure that we have a diverse board, we verify that every time to make sure we have a good diverse board, that we have the scoring done by a disinterested third party, which is usually in either HR or payroll. They calculate the scores, so no one in the room that's doing interviews gets to score that. And then they bring those scores to the chief, and then he and I will look at it and decide, you know, what needs to happen there. Once they do that, they would go on to administrative chief for the archival, and then all the panelist paperwork that's done is all filed, and whoever was evaluated that day. We've had an open invitation to Ms. Stevenson to come over. She's come over to sit in on interviews, just as a review process. I know it was one of the things you guys talked about at one point, wanting to see how HR would kind of look at things and to make sure we're doing things the right way. And we wanted to make sure that we reached out to her and said, hey, come on and take a look at what we're doing. And she came in and to sit in with us, and she seemed to think that we were okay with where we were going, and just wanted to make sure that we demonstrate, you know, equity and transparency. That's what we've got to do in these processes. So, are there any, and again, I know you didn't have a chance to read it all, but if there's any questions, hopefully, I resent that again, Commissioner, in a word format, hopefully it'll come through, but I'll make sure it gets sent out. Sometimes they'll go through, sometimes they won't, but we're going to print off better color copies for the full commission.
Are there any questions for Chief? I think the big thing is,
Sir.
You know, you brought it out, and we know where y'all are standing now, and your efforts and what you're trying to
Yes,
get.
sir.
And we all know, we've read the papers too. We know what Commissioner Reed was talking about. You know, it's all around the country on this that we've read it. And Chief, like you said, Chief Farley
Same problem with
affirmed that earlier.
Public safety is taking a hit in general. I mean, between all that going.
Everybody wants to be safe though, and what it was done.
But private sector is where the money is.
Yeah.
and
It's a
unfortunately, that's-
continuous moving target.
Yeah.
I mean, you go right on down to the school traffic officers and
Yep.
just trying to keep people there. I had an individual call me not long ago complaining about school traffic officers, and they wanted me to take care of that, and I said, I'll give you the phone number for the sheriff's office, and you call and ask for the officer in charge. But I said, I will not do anything there, because let me tell you this, they have plenty of those green coats and things that if you would like to have a job,
We'll definitely
I
make sure you get
guarantee you they'll
train you out.
help you out right there and let you see if you can do it better.
Yes.
Because, I mean, they stand there in the rain and the sun and all of that, and they take all that abuse.
They do.
And because I tried to tell them, I said, you know, I used to be a TSSA baseball umpire. And I decided soon that I said I could go down to the local bar and be called the same name. and not have to put up with this. And it's pretty much the same, those individuals that stand there every day and try to do that and try to do it right, and you're not going to make everybody happy. And police officers have some of the same thing, and they try to protect us and do that. And
Well, they're all human. They make mistakes and they have bad days.
we deal with that. Those people that have that side. You know, I heard a statement, I think it was at the meeting we had not long ago out here dealing with traffic and things of this type. And a young lady there used the terminology to sort of describe some individuals as cave people. And she said cave stood for Citizens Against Virtually Everything. And I said, you know, I've run into a few of those that, you know, you can't make them happy either way. And that's just something we deal with. But those officers that get out there, and you know, I hate to mention the academy that went there, but you see some of this. And I know it's just a training exercise that you put us through, where we walk up to that car and go to who you don't know what's in there and what's coming out of there, and you make that stop and see what you got to do there. I can't imagine having to do that, knowing that it's real, and just appreciate those guys that's out there on the patrol cars.
That's one of the key elements we try to tell people is don't get into the routine of walking up. That every time you walk up on that car, it's a nice, and in most of the cases, in the majority of the time, you're going to have a nice exchange, as long as you treat people like you'd want to be treated, sit behind that wheel when you get pulled over. That generally happens. But you do have those that try to talk themselves into further action. You really don't want that to happen, but the problem is the real danger happens when everything becomes routine, and you perceive it as such. And that's bad. But anything we can do, any of the questions you have, obviously, you can call. I'm transparent and open, whatever you want. And if I can't get it, I'll find somebody who can.
Just tell the men and women department that we appreciate it.
I'll be glad to. You know I'd love to convey that message no more than anything, right? So, and I think the world of them, and I tried to let them know that on Thanksgiving, send them a nice letter to let them know how much I appreciate them sitting in there, and those that were having to work the shifts while we're all at home eating dinner, and hoping that they got to go home and spend some time with families, and that at least God would bless them with a little time to fellowship with their families, and that they get some time to do the things they need to do. And again, I spoke to the medical staff. I talked to them, said the same thing to them. I went to see them on Friday to thank them for being. They're just like everybody else. They have to be there as well. And so there's a lot of times we don't think, we take it for granted. I'm guilty.
Some of us who work those off shifts at the 4
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you put report in the boxes downstairs and give them to
that report,
Vicki to,
like I said, if it's okay, I can make some more tomorrow and bring them over and put them in the boxes, because like I said, this did not turn out well. And again, I'd rather it print better. But I will try to, I'll just bring everybody, all 21, a better color copy if that's okay.
Okay, that's good.
I prefer to do that, and make sure that everybody can read it.
Good.
Yours did great.
Print it off my phone.
You've got a good printer.
Okay. Well, thank you for the info, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We have one further item, and that's the fourth Monday in December, is December 26th, which will be a holiday for county employees, so this will be closed. So it's been checked, and December 19th, the Monday before, is open. And we have to meet because it'll go for two, we'll miss the commission. There won't be anything coming through here. So is December 19th okay with everybody? We'll mark it down, and it'll be December 19th at 5:30. Okay? All right. We are adjourned. Oh.